Hey everyone, I'm Alain Poupart, publisher, editor, lead writer for Fan Nation All Dolphins. I am joined on this beautiful Monday afternoon by longtime Miami Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly to talk about Jalen Ramsey coming to the Miami Dolphins in a big trade, along with other free agency assorted items, specifically our three wishes for what's going to happen for the Dolphins. Omar, how are you?
You forgot about the unloading of Hunter Long. Oh man, he was gone before he even started.
Hunter who?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, the Brian Flores special.
I don't want to be mean to the guy because he was a nice kid and all that, but never saw anything from him in the first 2 years to indicate that, yeah, there's something there. He's going to be a player. I just never saw it.
Remember, the light generally takes a while to come on tight ends. That's one of the things I learned from Jeff Ireland, that because you had to learn so many different aspects of three different jobs, it takes tight ends a bit longer. But it
No,
didn't.
no,
Yeah,
that's fair, except that even while those players grow into their role and grow into their profession as a professional NFL tight ends, you see glimpses of, oh yeah, there's something there. This is something you can hang your hat on,
yeah.
where there's something there. And with Hunter, never like I'll give you an example. Tanner Connor last year,
Mhm.
actually during the regular season, basically had three passes thrown his way and dropped two, which isn't good. But in training camp, you saw
Tore it
something
up.
like, yeah, there's something there.
Tore it up. Yep.
Yeah, he may never pan out, but at least you have reason to think that maybe it could happen. So I don't know about you, but my initial reaction was like, I'm sorry, they got him. Sorry for a third and Hunter Long. Are you serious?
No, I mean, but keep in mind, and I'm not poo-pooing this trade because we all know we know Steve Ross's habits. We know this organization. They're in they're in the the make it rain. This is Steve Ross's opportunity to get in the game. He said that to me once before in terms of free agency. So this is when he gets excited. This is when he can contribute. He feels like he's making tackles. He's catching touchdowns. He's writing big checks.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've learned is, and I do respect this, that because so many teams are annually over the cap, and they're usually not one, because so many teams are annually over the cap, they've got to purge talented players from their roster, and maybe they readjust the contracts, and then voila, for a third or fourth round pick, you can get a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm of the opinion, F those draft picks. I do believe that, because your draft picks have a 33% chance of hitting no matter where they are. And you could have a Kader Kohu who isn't an undrafted, who outperforms your first round pick. If you're a good talent evaluator and you're a good coaching staff, you could develop players. So these draft picks, only thing I see beneficial of draft picks is you lock in young players at cheap rates. Now, if they're good players, that's a great thing. If they're bad players like Noah Igbenogany, Austin Jackson, it's a bad thing. So I think that they'd rather use those picks to go get elite players. And they've been doing that in recent history. And Jalen Ramsey, without a doubt, is an elite cornerback. Arguably, and you can say whatever you want, he's arguably easily top five. You could argue he's top three in terms of cornerbacks. Pair him with Xavier Howard. They play two different styles. It works. And as you know from this organization, they like to build based on from the Flores era on at the cornerback position. It frees up everything for the front end, so your blitzers could get better. And if you've got good safeties, you're in the money. So I like the move.
No, but to be clear, when I express shock at the trade, it's not from the Dolphin standpoint, because other than committing 35.5 million in guaranteed money over the next 2 years, from a pure personnel standpoint, it's a slam dunk. But this screams to me of like, man, did the Rams badly want to get rid of his contract situation for them to not be able to get more?
No, I think the business of the NFL is Ramsey's guaranteed money was up. He was looking for a new deal, wanted a new deal, wanted it with their team. They didn't have the cap space. They looked at him as an opportunity to get under the cap and restart. And that's what they're doing. There are so many teams that are still over the cap right now. It's mind numbing. And what they're going to do to try to get under the cap, not every team is like the Dolphins, where Steve Ross will write players big fat checks to create the cap relief. There might be 10, 12 teams like that. So not every team is going to get this done easily. So there's going to be a lot of players purged. And I'm excited to see. I always annually do a list of who I think could potentially get purged. And I know Dolphins and other teams do as well. And they might be targeting those players. You might be looking at a linebacker who's on a roster or a tight end who's on somebody else's roster that they need to get rid of just to get under the cap. And I think that the Dolphins have really ravaged that market over the years.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I totally get it. But to me, again, I'm with you. Jalen Ramsey, the top 5 cornerback, maybe even top 3. And I understand also the Rams basically kind of made some major financial sacrifices a couple of years ago when they went for it for this, and it got them a Super Bowl title. And now they're trying to reset. And basically, from what you hear, it's anybody except for Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp is fair game. But you're talking, I mean, you start like dumping.
Probably Stafford too.
Is he really though? I mean, what are you going to do with Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald? I mean, this is a losing proposition. I'm very surprised. I understood the desire to get rid of his contract, and from that standpoint, it makes sense. But for a 3 and a 7, you look at players of his caliber. Don't go for a 3. Sorry, 3 and a 7, a 3 and Hunter Long. Okay.
You mean a 3 and a 3? That's what it really was.
Well, yeah, I think we can pretty much agree that Hunter Long maybe wasn't a great 3. So the next question is with Ramsey: is how good is this defense potentially in 2023, assuming, of course, there are no major injury issues?
Healthy. Show me the linebacker and I'll tell you how good they'll be. Show me the inside linebacker, because no knock on Landon Roberts. And, Landon Roberts does have it out for me. He thinks I'm like his biggest hater, critic, fuel, whatever. And I really like him. I think he's maximized he's had 2 like 100+ tackle seasons, right? Yep. He's come back from an ACL injury, 6-9 months. I have a ton of respect for him. But if you're going to talk about becoming an elite defense, you got to replace him. And I don't even mind if he's still here and he's a locker room guy and a leader guy and a first and second down guy. Don't make no difference to me. But show me who that linebacker is, and I'll tell you how good they can be on this defense, because I just don't see that on this team and see that on this roster. Yeah. I think linebacker has been a position that they probably haven't had a good inside linebacker, no shade to Jerome Baker, since Carlos Dansby. And that's a long time. Donnell Ellerbe had he got a couple good seasons.
He never panned out. Sorry.
No, he never panned out. No, he never panned out. He was never worth what he got paid. But yeah, Carlos Dansby is probably the last.
Okay.
Last league.
No, and I'm glad you kind of like tempered a little bit. I like the guy very much. He's a great guy, but I'm not a huge Jerome Baker fan. I think Brian Flores really maxed him out, got him a nice second contract. And speaking of flow, I think Landon Roberts to the Vikings, if I were to predict Dolphin destinations, seems to me almost like a given. But I'm with you. I think they do need
Flores gets his lieutenant in Minnesota. Yeah,
there you go. I mean,
he didn't like the fact that I called him Flores' lieutenant, or no, actually it was some. Anyway, let's move on because
we could go into dangerous territory.
Yeah, dangerous territory. Let's just move on.
No, but I think Roberts to Minnesota, I don't want to say it's a slam dunk, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I do think they need a stud off the ball linebacker. I think they're good at on the edge. They're solid up front. Wouldn't mind having an upgrade at safety opposite Javon Holland.
Yeah.
Boyer.
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I want to put my resources there. If I'm going to put my resources, if you're telling me that I got to take a $9 million salary and put it at tight end or put it at inside linebacker or put it at safety, I'm going to put it at inside linebacker first and then tight end second. And then maybe I'll address the safety position. I just personally feel, and I get it, Poyer is a very nice player and I like him, and he would weaken an AFC East rival. Super talented, a guy who calls South Florida home, maybe even wants to be here. I think he personally wants the leverage. But I don't think he completes this defense. Just me personally, I don't think he makes this defense complete. I think a linebacker could make this defense complete, and then we can get a safety in the draft, or we can get a lower tier, less expensive safety.
Okay, no, I'm completely with you. To me, in off the ball line, we can call him off the ball linebacker would be number one.
Off the ball.
Well, that's what it is, because I mean, technically, Jalen Phillips is an outside linebacker, but what's he do? I mean, he rushes the quarterback more often than not. So he's an edge defender. This is where
he's an edge defender, but I don't like the term off the ball. Who isn't off the ball?
Jalen Phillips is not off it technically it should be off the line, but the term is off the ball. Okay. Anyway, the idea of a tight end, I think, first of all, they're going to have to sign a tight end or two in free agency, because if for no other reason than numbers, because right now they're down to Tanner Connor and Durham Smythe under contract.
You could roll with Tanner Connor and Durham Smythe, and
that's fine, but you need more bodies, is what I'm saying. So
you could do that cheaper. You could do that on the cheaper end.
Correct. Tier 2 or tier 3, and I don't know that the tight end, the way this offense is constructed, and I know because everybody goes back to San Francisco. Well, McDaniel had George Kittle. Well, that offense was also run centric.
Yeah. Because
of the talent and what they had. And this Dolphin offense is pass centric because you have Tyreek Hill and you have Jalen Waddle. So I don't know that you need that stud two-way tight end who's the great inline blocker and a great receiver. I don't necessarily think that's
you need a two-way tight. You need a two-way tight end because there aren't enough targets for the tight end. They're just not.
Correct.
You could roll with Durham Smythe. I looked at his contract and I said that it's an opportunity to create $3.2 million in cap savings. However, am I certain I'm going to get an upgrade over Durham Smythe for $3.2 million? Right. I'm not really certain. I'm at least carrying it to training camp, and I'm signing an OJ Howard. I know people are like OJ people. I can't stop thinking about that joint practices in Tampa Bay. You were there the day Micah Fitzpatrick's mama called out Brian Flores because Micah just kept getting his butt torn up by OJ Howard. And Cameron Brate. It will never leave me. It will never leave me. And I think OJ Howard can be that dual threat guy. He's not going to be expensive. We're talking a 2-year, $5 million contract. I think that you could stop gap that.
It's worth a shot. Yeah. No, and I think in retrospect, that may have been the beginning of the end for Minka in Miami. Those joint practices in Tampa. Think about it. Tell me.
No, they were absolutely. They were. Him and Flo had a frosty relationship. Like, it is what it is. He knew the organization was tanking for Tua, and he didn't like it, and didn't want to be part of this organization, and probably didn't like South Florida either.
And didn't want to be used as a all over the place guy. He wanted to be a center fielder.
Exactly. He wanted Bobby McCain's job. That's another guy out there. If you want to get a inexpensive safety who can play nickel, do multiple things, Bobby McCain for $2 million.
I have no problem with that.
Not a bad signing. Yep. He can help you.
He can cover a little bit. No, and there's the thing, because right now I look at the safety position opposite Holland, and you have Brandon Jones coming back from the injury. I forget, his was an ACL, who's more of a blitzer than a cover guy. And then the other guys, Eric Rowe's gone as a free agent. Be shocked if he came back. And then you have Elijah Campbell, who's a nice young player, but he's kind of unproven. And Verone McKinley, who was a rookie free agent last year, was also kind of unproven. So it'd be nice to get a veteran guy. If it's not Jordan Poyer, who, as you've mentioned, very, very astutely, I might add, very well could wind up going back to Buffalo. Then Bobby McCain absolutely does make sense.
Bobby McCain, you could do Michael Thomas. I mean, I look at it as
Michael Thomas let me stop you. Michael Thomas just re-signed with the Bengals Monday morning.
I figured. Yeah. Love that guy. Great locker room guy, great leader, great special teams contributor. Can play nickel, can play safety, and that's the type of player that I think that they need. Not to say that this guy's going to be starting, but you gotta get multiple uses out of that guy, out of that position.
In closing, we kind of danced around it, but let's pin it down now. your top three wishes as we were now shortly into the negotiation legal tampering period.
I am at the point where linebacker, inside linebacker, how you address it, I don't know, but it's time you address it. Like, think about how many years you haven't addressed it, or how many failed attempts Raekwon McMillan you've tried to address that position. Let's just go out and get a proven commodity in free agency. There are multiple options. That I'm not exactly sure what's the best fit for them, but I do believe that they have multiple avenues and multiple routes that they can address it, whether it be what's the
Bobby
name?
Wagner, Levante David, Deion Jones,
Kendricks. Yeah, you got multiple avenues to address it. To me, that's my top priority. Address that in free agency. I'm putting probably about a $9 million commitment to that position. Then I'm actually going to address the tight end position with OJ Howard. I know Dolphin fans be like, oh, this guy and this OJ Howard. I just believe. I truly do believe, and I know he's looking for that opportunity, maybe a reunion with Tua. He's a blocker. He's an all-purpose guy. You know he can be a receiving threat. And then for my third, I this is something that we discussed and I touched on it, but I'm going to go trade for one of those top-tier running backs. Whether it be Dalvin Cook or whether it be Derrick Henry, the Big Daddy. My preference would probably be Cook, but I know if you get Derrick Henry, a healthy Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry that has 2 more years left in him, you could be the most feared team in the NFL. So Dalvin Cook is a great player too, probably better fit for this scheme. But I want to force you to put 8 men in the box. I want you to choose
or pay the price.
Yes, I want you to have the hardest decision in the NFL on offense. Am I going to put 8 men in the box? Or am I going to try to double, put an extra man in the secondary to cover Tyreek and Waddle? Like, I want you to have the toughest decision. And Derrick Henry, think about it. 7 men in the box, Derrick Henry running downhill, he'll get you 4 yards. I think, hopefully, no doubt he'll get you 4 yards. We did have a Juwan, what's his name? Howard.
Jordan
Howard. Good God.
Didn't very well.
Ooh, that didn't pan out. That didn't pan out at all because he just could not. And then he went on to the Eagles and had a successful season. It's amazing.
No, you look at, talk about having no luck whatsoever with the running backs they signed in free agency. Like in three consecutive off seasons, they signed Jordan Howard, Malcolm Brown, and Chase Edmonds, and none of them lasted more than a year. In fact, Malcolm Brown's the only one who actually finished the season because Howard got cut and Edmonds got traded. So
yeah, no. And I'm pretty sure we can go before that too, and they had some disasters. They probably haven't signed or traded for a good running back since probably Reggie Bush.
Yeah,
which is sad, but reality.
No, happens. So yeah, my list. I actually wrote a story on the SI All Dolphins, alldolphins.com on Monday morning, ranking my priorities. And I hope I remember exactly the same way I put it in the article, because that would be a bad look, but it's kind of close to me. So I didn't have running back even in my top 5 because I think the offense can succeed with whatever they do, even if they run it back with Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. I think the offense.
And I'm not opposed to running it back with those 2 guys.
I was going to say that's not what's going to determine the success of the offense. So for me, it was off the ball linebacker or off the line linebacker or middle linebacker. And so however you want to phrase it, I love Bobby Wagner. I don't think he's going to wind up coming here. Levante David's a guy I like. He's 33 years old, but he can still play. And there should be some appeal for him since he played at Miami Northwestern High School.
There is an appeal here.
There were a couple of other ones down the line of the list of free agents I looked at on the Monday morning, but those are the 2 guys that kind of stuck out to me. I think number 2 I might have had, I want to say possibly safety or tight end were my 2 and 3. And again, some of the same names. I have 0 issue with OJ Howard. I think it may be more likely. I don't see them spending a lot of money on Dalton Schultz again, because in this offense doesn't make sense.
I see the appeal to Dalton Schultz.
He's a good tight end. let's say he's a top 10 tight end in the NFL. Would you not, would not agree with that?
Okay, would I commit $9 million to him?
No, and neither would I. And that's the thing, because that's the thing with the tight end position in the NFL. I mean, there is such a gap between like your tier 1 and then tier 2. It's crazy.
I am fascinated to see what happens with Mike Gesicki. Just absolutely fascinated, because everybody had him, he was going to head to Tennessee if the Dolphins didn't tag him. Well, I know for a fact right now, he ain't going to Tennessee. So yeah, I'm dying to see what his market is, what he can get from a contract standpoint. I would not bring him back. And
there's no way he's coming. There's no way he's coming back. I mean, sorry, 1%. I don't want to be that definitive. 1% he's coming back. Hey,
man, I mean, the market could surprise him, but he doesn't fit this offense. And I've said that from the jump. I don't like Mike Gesicki because he telegraphs what you're doing intentionally. If he's on the field, you're passing. And I hate that. So I would rather, and people are going to be tear this apart, but I would rather play with Durham Smythe because it gives you multiplicity. And I like multiplicity.
Well, he also had a lot more. If you notice, the Dolphins like to play with Durham Smythe more because he had a lot more snaps than Gesicki in 2020.
Yeah. But that's because he can actually block.
Correct. But Mike, if you remember in training camp, Mike's working hard on it, making an effort. I mean, that's not who he is. I mean, let's not kid our. The guy's a former basketball and volleyball player in high school.
He got better though. He got better.
Yeah.
Did he get good? No, but he got better.
So that would be my thing, like a tier 2, because again, they're going to need bodies at tight end, even if it winds up being Smythe and Tanner Connor or 1 and 2.
You could go get 2 minimum wage guys.
Correct. And safety, I also had right tackle, because even though I do think the Dolphins would like to see Austin Jackson develop, I do think they need a security blanket insurance policy there.
Why wouldn't you run it back with Snell, who was better than Austin Jackson?
Brandon Shell. And yeah, absolutely. I could see that happening, and it would make a lot of sense.
Why wouldn't you run it back with Brandon Shell? He played well. He played better than Austin Jackson.
Well, dude, Austin Jackson played 1 game and he was out. Here's the thing. Re-sign Brandon Shell and make it a legit open competition at right tackle. And if it turns out that Austin Jackson raises his level of play to where he's better and you have more confidence in him in Brandon Shell, great. And then Brandon Shell, you tell Brandon Shell, dude, you can beat him out, be the backup. I think
Austin Jackson should be the utility man on the left side, playing backup left tackle, backup left guard. Maybe compete with Liam Eichenberg, because I really couldn't care who starts at that left guard spot because neither of them are good. I like the fact that there are 3 spots on the offensive line you can count on. You can write it down. It's like in spades. It's a book. But then there are 2. You don't even have possibles. You just 2. And you got Shell. I would rather roll with him, and I would honestly rather roll with Jones at guard.
Robert Jones, yeah, that works. I have no problem with that.
There's more upside.
Make it an open competition. Don't go in. The one thing that they can't do is don't go in with, okay, Eichenberg, it's your starting job to lose. Austin Jackson is your starting. Make him earn it in training camp. I think that's weird. But to be clear, since Austin Jackson's 5th-year option is up, you're not picking it up, right? It's a joke. I'm kidding. Same with Noah. I won't even ask you. On that note, Omar.
Yeah, and there are more evidence that F them draft picks. Like, I'm sorry. Point. You might hit, if you're Chris Greer, you might hit 40% on your draft picks.
No, and they gave away a 3rd to get Jalen Ramsey. Well, their 3rd last year was Channing Tindall. We didn't see the field on defense, so.
Oh yeah, you're not just elevating him into that inside linebacker position.
Yeah, no. Notice how neither of us even mentioned him as a possibility.
Special teams guy. Just let him master that.
Yep. Anyway, this is it for this episode of the All Dolphins podcast. Omar, thanks again.
I appreciate it.
Catch you on the rebound.
All right.